Greatness. I'm your host, Christopher Cook. I've got my man from the islands, the Virgin, to be exact, Elton A. Narcisse. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I represent the U.S. Virgin Islands in the house. What's going on? You must be
there now, man, because you just sound ultimately relaxed.
Oh, yeah, man. Just have to close my eyes and picture myself on that ocean, riding my jet ski. Oh, my goodness. I love it.
All right, well, man, you're going to want to wake up for this episode. This is going to be great. Listeners, if you're just tuning in, this season we're going to be focusing on starting a podcast, starting a relationship, starting a business, whatever it is that you want to start. We're going to be talking about it. One of those things that I feel like really impinges or infringes on starting is self-doubt. Elton, what do you think about that?
Yes, sir. That is a big part of starting something new, self-doubt. The what if, the excuses, all the people that says it cannot be done, it all plays a factor in getting started.
Absolutely, and I would definitely agree with that. So we're definitely going to be tackling some of those things. If you're new to this episode, we've got a lot more episodes coming to you. We really want to hear from you guys, and we want to get comments. So with that, let's get started. So self-doubt. One of the things that I feel like is the biggest issue with self-doubt is who you put yourself around. If you're putting yourself around people that are not trying to expand how you view on life, expand the way that you think, that are not trying to help you grow, and you're not putting yourself in that environment, I feel like that could be a huge roadblock as to why people are just not starting anything, because they just don't believe in themselves, because they're not surrounded by people that even believe in their own self. So why would they believe in you and encourage you? I can speak to that in my own personal life. Growing up, I think I hung out with, a lot of people that I'm not going to lie, like they're still, my friends today, but we don't talk as much, and maybe we've taken different roads and different paths, but at the end of the day, I can, remember I remember I moved away as a kid. And at this point in time, I was still heavily, into, whatever it is I was into, video games or just movies. I had no clear view or vision in life and where I wanted to go. And when I went and moved, I had met people that kind of changed that way that I thought. Changed my mindset on how I viewed the world. And then I came back and I met, my friends again, and nothing had really changed with them, but I had changed. So then what I noticed is they were like, oh, where's the old Chris? We want the old Chris, because they were like, doing what kids do or teenagers do, sitting in a circle. Hey, you wanna hit this blunt? I'm like, no, man, I actually don't do that anymore, And I was like, what do you mean you don't do that anymore? It's like, well, I'm trying to keep a clear head. I've got different goals that I'm trying to pursue, and I just don't do that anymore. Fast forward, a couple of years later, I graduate high school, get out of college, ... They're still doing the same thing, and I'm not hating on them. I don't want anybody to think that I'm hating on them, because that's not the case. Like, I think I consider them friends today, but I just think you have to be really careful who you put yourself around, and regardless of who you call friends, and that goes for family. So can you tell me a little bit about a time where, and really kind of just go into detail about a time where you felt, you had some self-doubt and you just really didn't believe in yourself, and tell me, if you worked your way through that, or if you didn't, or if you met, people that kind of helped you through that. Can we just kind of get specific there?
No problem. I remember one time I was in the 11th grade, and I remember I was running for student body vice president. You with me?
I'm with you.
All right. And I remember we were up against a lot of the seniors, and I remember a lot of people was like, bro, you can't win. All those guys are more popular. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it was like, you're going to lose. And it was like, why are you even wanting to run? Why are you even trying? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I was like, yo, I can be the vice president. I can see me doing this, you know? And I remember preparing, I was sleeping that night. And I remember I had almost a dream. It felt so real. I was talking and the words just was, I remember everything word for word that night, what to say and the reaction and what to do. And then I got up and I said, before I forget everything, let me write it down. I wrote down that statement. And then I remember going to school that day with my speech, and people saw me had a notepad in my hand. It was like, you running for vice president for real? And it was like, nah, son, yo, why you even going to go up with them? You know they're going to win. It's a popular vote, you know, like most things. And for a minute there, I started to have self-doubt. I was like, Sam, I'm not feeling this. And then I was like, Elton, you already did the work. You already wrote down your speech. Give it a try. You never know.
Right.
And I remember while doing that speech, and there came in my head, I did it. I asked a child, you know, what are some of the improvements you'd like to see here? And then I pointed out, hey, you notice I was the only one that asked? And everybody was like, oh, snap. This. But then when all was said and done, it was voting day. And I kid you not, I won. And I won, yeah. I won by even a landslide. And I remember to myself, I was like, listen, the only person that can give you permission to not do something is yourself. You're the only one that can give yourself that permission. And I share that story just to say many times we let other people dictate us and fill our heads with poison and allow us to not grow or attain our dreams and vision because they don't see how it's possible. Not only that, they don't see how they could do it, so you shouldn't be able to do it. Almost sometimes that's how it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
go ahead.
I can definitely resonate with that. It kind of makes me think of that. It's one of my favorite movies with Will Smith, and it's called The Pursuit of Happiness.
Yes,
and it's
I love that show.
Favorite films, and one of the lines that I've always remembered is there's this point in time where his son is trying to do something, and he says, "You can't do that," and his son kind of just goes into this. You could just see his whole demeanor changes. Like, for the first time, like, he finally gave thought to what his father told him and saw it. Oh, he's right, I can't. And then his dad kind of looked at him, he changed his whole tune, and he says, look, don't ever let anybody tell you can't do something. A lot of people are going to tell you can't do something because they can't do it themselves. He's like, You want it, you go get it. You know, you want to do it, you go do it. And man, that movie brings tears to my eyes a lot. Not just because of that specific, that specific quote, but just the whole father-son dynamic, watching the struggle going from practically homeless to taking his broker's test and passing and just watching his, listening to the monologue throughout the film. Beautiful film. And it really
was well made. I agree.
Yeah, it was very well made, and so it kind of really reminds me of that. And I think that as kids, I don't know if the education system or if our family system is built around encouraging people to shoot beyond what other people think they can shoot. When I was in high school, I remember very vividly having counselors say, you will not make it into college. And it wasn't that my academics were terrible, but for some reason they just thought, okay, you're not going to make it. And I thought, okay, maybe it's because I'm poor. I mean, I literally had no clue as to why they thought that. I had average grades, but they just said you won't make it. And so I gave thought to it. And I think that even before that, I'd always given thought to the fact that I probably won't. This will probably be it for me. And I'll have to, figure out I didn't even know what I was going to do. You know what I mean? I really had no clue. I didn't give thought to it because I don't think I had anybody around me to help me give thought to what are you going to do when you're having to go out there on your own. And I don't think that many of us are conditioned in those earlier years.
Can I just say something on that? Many of us are sometimes in that scenario where we're not seeing the light. We're literally flying blind. Literally, right. Because there's no one saying you can do it. No one is in our corner cheering for us. We're just there with our back against the wall, and everything just seems to be, the stacks is just seeming to be against us. And that is where that willpower from the insides, you have to let that shine the most. That is where you have to feed the world that is actually, thinking positive, that yes, you can do it. This is just temporary. This is just a test. There's something better in the horizon. This is where you really have to dig down deep and literally hone in and listening to that voice that says, listen, just hold on a little longer. Listen, the pain is only temporary, but the glory lasts a lifetime. Come on now. Yo, you ever watch that movie Unbroken? Come on, man.
Absolutely.
Listen, it's the exact same thing. And many of us sometimes are in that corner. The rent is due. The government shutdown is getting to you. Your kids are saying, Mom, I'm hungry. You can't even put some peanut butter and bread and jelly together. But it seems like it's just too much for... Listen, I'm telling you, don't even think of quitting right now. Because your breakthrough is so close, you don't even know how close it is. That's how serious it is. And Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I said, listen, I remember a time when my car was down. I was renting a car. The bill was just stacking up, and I'm like, the mechanic who was fixing my cars completed it, but I didn't even have enough to pay off everything. And I was like, Lord, I don't know how I'm going to make this payment because he's ready. I need my car. I'm renting a car. If I don't get those things, those transactions put out, I can be losing more money than I'm making. Right. And I was like, Lord, I don't know what to do. And then the next day I got paid. It was more than enough, I'm telling you. It was more than enough. And I was able to pay everything, plus put some, aside to save. But, that's just to show you, listen, sometimes you just have to hold on. Sometimes you just have to stand still and see God work and do his thing for you, man.
Absolutely. And I resonate with that a lot. I definitely resonate with that. I think that many of us, when our backs are against the wall, and sometimes when your back's against the wall and you can't hear a friendly voice, you've got people around you that are telling you, oh, this is what happened to me, my daughter had cancer too, or such and such had cancer, they didn't make it, or such and such, they took the money, the government took the money from them, and then they didn't have anything to pay off of because they were behind, or that sounds ludicrous because I didn't make sense in that scenario, but I've just been around people like that are so quick to just say and bring up a negative thing about something they heard or something they experienced, and all of a sudden now that's my situation too, because it didn't work out in that scenario for them, but and then so now that's my plight, and so it's like I don't understand that. I don't understand why that's the case. And sometimes I even get that from my family, because I don't know if a lot of people know this, but while they're listening, I'm trying to pursue being a physical therapist. There are no people in my family in the health field. None. This is the first time in my family that this is being attempted. And it's hard, man. It's really hard. And there's times where even from my family, they say, I don't know if I could do that. Like, I don't think I could. And
just a bunch of doubt there, huh?
Right. And just a lot of doubt. And it's like, how do you know? You've never attempted it. You've never tried. You know what I mean? Like, how do you know? Did you did you do any research about it? Did you talk to anybody? Did you go in shadow? You know, that's what I'm doing right now. I just did, 4 or 5 hours of shadowing this morning. And I'm on my way. And I don't know if I'm going to get into the program, because even now, like, people who have done it tell me, I don't know if you're going to get in unless you got a 4.0 in this course, and this course, and this course. It's very competitive. I don't know if you're going to get in. Doubt.
Can I just say something there? I noticed there's a pattern here. Anytime you're the first in anything, it's always a little bit harder on you. Why? Because you are the experiment. There's a lot of people looking. Some looking to see you succeed. Some looking to see you to fail. But all eyes is on you because you're the first. You're the first.
Right.
So the pressure is like 10 times the second than on the person who comes after you. You are the first. So you are the one that's actually going to prove that it can be done or it can't. And that is where the challenge really lies, because people who probably never knew about people who probably don't even have a hope, you could inspire that.
Right.
You know? And that's where, listen, that's why I think self-doubt, listen, that is why it's very important to put that behind of you, because I think it's selfish to actually quit, because you just crushed the dreams of how many more behind of you by just you quitting. And people don't realize when you succeed, others succeed. When you fail, many dreams are lost, and many people fail because of that. And it's not just because, it's not because it's 100% your fault. It's just, I don't know if it's a law or anything. It's just how human behavior is. If you couldn't make it, if you didn't set the bar to begin with, there's nothing to start off with. So people don't know if it can be done. Like, for instance, can a man fly over to the Pacific Ocean to go to front? It took, what's his name, Charles Lindenberg, to actually do it first. You see what I mean?
Yep.
And he set the bar to the point, and then others could have built on that. You see what I'm going?
But I can imagine, like, in that time, like, the conversations that were taking place. Like, I can't wait to actually go and I'm gonna have to go. I don't know. Maybe there was some harbor or somebody that worked in the water or something. I don't know. I don't sound intelligent, but and they're like, I'm gonna have to go dig that plane up out of the ocean when he crashes that thing because he runs out of fuel. I can just imagine, like, the conversations that were taking place.
And the amount of experts, and you know what? You know what's the funny thing? You see, this is where you have to really dig deep in, because, listen, there'll be a bunch of educated fools telling you it can't be done because of X, Y, Z. And listen, you know how many people say that it is impossible to go quick, travel from more than this amount of speed from point A to B? They was commentating the train that we know today. Now we're going 10 times faster. We're breaking theories that people predicted that could never be done, and it's being done. It is all inside, man. That's why your brain is the most powerfulest weapon. Everybody's brain. Yeah. No matter how. I was talking to this drill sergeant, and he told me, listen, this guy actually got a 99 on the ASVAB. What was he? An autistic guy. We deemed him to have a problem, but listen, the man was brilliant. And now he's getting paid. He has a great job, and he's serving our country.
Right.
There's so much that can be said, but the point is, listen, self-doubt is not, the problem is not self-doubt. The problem is what you do with it. Right.
And, how you react to situations is key. What you do with all of that garbage, how you set that stuff aside and really talk yourself through it. Because if you don't really talk yourself through it, or you don't talk with other people about, some of these things, it just makes it harder. It really does. And, it's just one of those things where you have to work through it. You have to keep going. Can't stop short, because you'll always wonder. And it's like, what's the point of wondering? I would rather go all in and know that I did everything that I could. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to have those kind of regrets down the line. And so, like, and with that, I can kind of transition here a little bit.
Sure.
But, one of the things that is that it's not just a job or a career that you have to pursue. Sometimes there are relationships out there too that maybe you need to mend, or you need to, try to establish. And there's a lot of different kinds. Something from me that comes to mind, and I'm just going to share it. But, growing up, I didn't really have a father growing up. And when he was around, he was kind of drunk and he was abusive. And so even if he was around, you didn't want to be around. You know what I mean? So it was just one of those things where I didn't have that. And so now I'm dealing with some of those frustrations of not having a father around, and really, like, even going through some of those kind of self-doubts. Like, for instance, like, it wasn't until I heard something recently, but what he had said, because he had kind of been through something similar, and he had said, basically, he had to admit that he was his father's son, but he was not his father's choices. And that really kind of set something aside for me, because, like, even as a kid, when I was making similar choices and I was heading down a path where my mom would just be like, "Oh, you're so much like your father," and that used to grind my gears, like, to the point to where I would get so angry with that statement. I was like, I'm nothing like him, because, like, I wanted to separate myself so far from it that I didn't want to be that. You know what I mean? And so there was a point in time where I definitely had a lot of self-doubt in just who I was as a person. Like, maybe I wanted to start actually being, like, a better person, but I thought, oh, okay, maybe I am just like my father or whatever, who's not around. And it took me a long time to even get where I'm at today, to just be like, all right, you know what, Chris, you're 31, he ain't coming. He's not here. All right? Like, you let him know that you had a granddaughter and he didn't really respond. He's not coming. He may never come. And I can't wait on that. You know what I mean? I can't wait on that. But I've done things in my life, throughout the course of my life, to at least attempt to reach out to him and say, hey, I'm reaching out to you, and I used to reach him out through Facebook, and I tried, calling his phone number, but sometimes his phone number wasn't working. So, but I attempted, you know what I mean? I've done my part. And then there was a situation where Father's Day had rolled around, and I get this text, and he says, oh, okay, I guess you're not calling me on Father's Day. And I go, that's funny. I was kind of, like, frustrated with that a little bit, because that was my first Father's Day. Technically, I was just a new father, and I hadn't received anything from him. And so it took a lot for me to just finally say, you know what? I've done everything that I can do. I've tried. I've put myself there. I'm not giving up, but I don't think that I need to continue. So in this kind of thing, like, I started, and then I transitioned and started into something else. Like, I didn't just give up and have a bad taste in my mouth about it in terms of that. Like, I'm still kind of trying to make my peace with it, I guess. But I started it. I tried. I won't have to know on my deathbed, or if, I found that he passed away, I'm not going to have to sit around, bubbling and crying about the fact that, oh, I wonder if I had maybe just reached out and made him, realize, like, okay, I'm not angry that you were never there. I'm not angry that, you were abusive. I'm not angry, you're still not here. You know what I mean? Like, you get what I'm saying? So
I get to.
How you rebuild those relationships is, like, pivotal. It's so pivotal. And there's no reason why you just can't start. There's no reason why you can't sort through that, because one of the things that I've realized, if you don't deal with that stuff,
it's going to deal with you.
It's going to deal with you, and it's going to affect you in your marriage. It's going to affect you as a father, and I am a father about 2.5 years in.
Nice.
And it has affected me. It's gotten me thinking about things like, wow, okay, I need to address that, because I want to be the best father, the best husband that I can be, that I never had in my life growing up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If I've got my family, you know, in check, and you know, in the faith for me, and God, that's a huge aspect. I don't often pay attention to it enough, but it's a huge aspect for me. And so that's something I'm still growing in. And another thing that, you know, in terms of relationships, I think that, you know, for me, I've wanted to start, but I'm also saying, like, starting in that way, starting and trying to attempt some of those things from the past and trying to mend some of those things so that I can start my new journey, like, that's so pivotal for me. Like, so if you don't take care of some of those hiccups that are holding you back, and you don't start dealing with those things, they're always going to hold you back. You're always going to find a reason why you can't move forward.
That is so true. If you do not deal with your past, it will definitely affect your future and the way how you live.
Definitely.
And a lot of people don't understand that. That's why I think, I'm sorry to bring it to a political thing, but I think that's why America is still in this big mess with the huge issues of race and prejudices, because they have not fully dealt with the past and put that to lay to rest. And that is why a lot of times we find ourselves in these problems and self-doubt. Oh, I don't think he is capable of doing this because this and that. Whereas it's because it's a big history that has not been rectified.
Right.
You know, but that's just a side note. But, you know, how does this apply to us? Is, I mean, a valuable lesson, man. You have to get rid of this self-doubt. You know, yesterday at my midweek motivation, I said, listen, you have to take into account those negative thoughts that always damage you as an individual. And you have to write them down and set that bad boy on fire. Burn it. And it's important that your brain sees that, because then it can literally put that outside and say, listen, that is no longer a part of who I am. Now I can just build on that positive, and then you will see the type of change you can make, man. I'm telling you, positive thinking, the law of attraction does work. It does. It does.
I definitely believe that. Man, so I don't want to necessarily like change this topic, but
go for it. No, go for it.
Transition and talk about what are some self-doubts or reasons why a person who doesn't believe in themselves, what are some reasons that for you have had to maybe help somebody else that was going through that? What are some things that, you know, you've told them that, you know, aside from, you know, positive thinking, aside from law of attraction, what are some things that maybe you helped somebody through specifically? Whether it was getting into college or, you know, riding a bike and putting on training wheels. I really don't know, but can you share something like that with me?
That's an excellent question. I've done it in so many different ways, but it's like which one is like kind of like relevant to this one, you know? What we have.
Yeah, I know it's a big question. So you know, I kind of put you on the spot there. So,
no, it's all good. You know, it's all good. Yeah. What are some ways I've helped people out of self-doubt? You know, here's one thing I could recall. Being a musician, many times it takes a lot to get out there and share that talent, because, you know, no musician likes to make a mistake and look bad on public, because, you know, that's their reputation. That's who they are on the line. You know what I mean? And I have helped people, drummers, saxophonists, pianists, come out of that comfort zone and said, so if you make a mistake, so what? you're gonna just stop and not stop playing for the rest of your life? No. You keep the song going because that's how life is. And the same can be said about life. Listen, life is like a song. You will make a mistake. It's guaranteed. You will practice and you will fail. That's why there's practice, you know. But when you do perform, you know, listen, the better choices you make, you know, the more you expose yourself, you know, you only get better. You only get better if it's a deliberate, you know, in a deliberate sense to make sure you improve. You know, you will only get better. You know.
Yeah, and that's something that you hit right there is the fact that people think when they start something that it's got to be perfect. It's got to blow everybody off the water. I've got to be a viral sensation overnight. And that's not the case. That's not the case. When you first start, you know what? You don't have to go in thinking that you're going to suck. I wouldn't say that. But go in thinking I'm going to get better regardless of whatever happens. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep moving forward. And I believe in it that much that I'm going to get better. And like, you know, even this podcast is kind of a little bit of an example. Like, I think our first couple episodes, we've been kind of like nitpicky in terms of what kind of content was being talked about, how we should present it to people or to our friends or to other people. Like, it's got to be this, it's got to be that. And I think we finally came to a point where we just said, okay, enough's enough. We've talked it through. We've come up with a plan. Let's move forward.
Right.
You know what I mean? Let's take that next step. And I think even when we did that, we were still unsure, like, okay, I just don't know.
The truth is, sometimes we're still unsure because we're such a novice to this.
Exactly. And so, but I already feel like even in this conversation, like, this is still getting better.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So it's only fueling what I know to be true, that if I don't give up too early, if I don't put a time thing on it, because I think that's another issue that happens too. When people want to get started, like, they got to put a time on it.
Right.
They got to put this, like, checklist, like, okay, this has to be done in 5 years, and I need to be here. It's like, I'm 31. I live in an apartment complex. I have a 2-year-old daughter. I'm not where I want to be financially. I can focus on the fact that I've got friends who are younger than me, who are more successful financially than me, and are going on vacations. I can focus on that. Or I could just say, I'm going to utilize the time I have now to the best of my ability to not focus on any of it, not focus on the likes and the dislikes and the shares, not focus on who's doing what with who and so. I just have to focus on what I'm doing right here, right now, on a day-to-day basis, and continue moving forward and strive to do better. And before I know it, that will be the case, because it was just over a year ago that I was homeless. Now I have an apartment. It was over a year ago I lost my job. Well, now I've gotten 3 offers. So it gets better. You just have to keep going forward.
Keep on playing the game of life.
Exactly. You can't give up too soon because somebody else said you can't do it. You can't give up too soon because it didn't work out before. Like, what is it going to take? You want that job? Apply 60 times to that job. You know what I mean?
Great example. I don't know one great baseball hitter that has never been struck out. I'm sure it happens. That's just to show you.
Right.
The game of baseball is a great example of life. Listen, you will get struck out. No matter how good. It happens to the pros. You will swing and miss. But you just have to get back up and swing by the swing. You got to.
That's right.
You got to.
Yep.
Give it all you got.
The greats are not remembered because they had a couple of flaws in their game. You know, it's like, why do we still remember Babe Ruth? You know, McGuire. You know, that's baseball. Kobe Bryant. LeBron James. I mean,
Michael
Jordan. The only thing that makes them great is that they continued to get out there. They continued to put themselves on the court. They continued to practice to be the first one and the last one in the gym. Like, they continued to do that. And I am begging people to see that they can do that in anything. You can do that in your marriage. You can do that in your relationships with people. You can do that in your beliefs in your own company or in a project that you want to pursue. You just got to go treat it as if it's the most important thing you've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
And that you believe in that thing wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
And stop looking at the time clock. Stop looking at what time it is and start focusing on what it is that you need to do.
Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, time is relative. Time is relative. Because there's a lot, like one great example of this is, you can accomplish a lot while you're young, and then, God forbid, you die, and then, it was a life still well lived. And then you can accomplish nothing until you're old and, run down and accomplish so much then, and then it's still a life well lived. The great example is the Captain Colonel from, the guy who made KFC what it is today. He had a life full of hardship, and for those who know about him very well, you will know that he didn't have the best of upbringings. He came from a very dysfunctional home. He had a hard life, and he literally, if you want to see a man a life full of failures, you are looking at, he's one great example. Failures after failures. He had several businesses that failed until one day. It just hit him. People love his KFC or his his secret recipe with 11 spices and herbs put together, and to this day is a staple of American diets. Whether that is good or bad, you take your pick. But at the end of the day, you cannot deny that it's not known throughout the world. And it all because he never quit. He never chose to just skip out on life and did suicide. He never chose the easy way out, let me die in peace and, let people take, because truth is, suicide does not hide or take care of the problem at the end of the day. It doesn't. And, at the end of the day, you're making it harder for someone else. And is that fair? Nobody likes to clean up after someone else's mess. Nobody, and that's why the same thing I said earlier today. That's why when you quit, you are crushing the dreams of many others. Especially if you're the first. You remember I said that? It's selfish if you quit, because there's so many people behind of you and looking up to you, hoping that you succeed. And here's a fun fact: there is more churn for you to succeed than there is to fail. Believe it or not.
Yep. And, I can kind of see that. I can kind of see that in some respects. I don't think that a lot of people are just out there just waiting for somebody to fail because that's what they really want to see. I think it's just that that's what they're used to. They're used to seeing people.
That is true. Don't get me wrong. But what I said there's true. There are people they're haters just wanting you to fail because at the end of the day, they can, they can say, man, you try this. It's ammo for them. And you see, but the truth is they'll never risk their neck to do what you just tried to do, though.
Well, and that's really what I was getting at. It's not. I don't know if it's necessarily like ammo for them. I just think it's just that's all they know. I think that it's easy for them to be like, you're not going to make it because I've already been there, I've already done that, or you're not going to make it because I've seen so-and-so do that.
Oh, I see your perspective.
Don't even try.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that even if they are aiming for you to go ahead and lose, like, it's either because there's something in it for them, or it just further confirms their belief on life. Because to think differently, to think that, that it doesn't have to, you don't have to live here. You don't have to live, in government housing. You don't have to live on food stamps. You don't have to live this way. And when you see somebody in that circle all of a sudden say, they stand up and then they say, no, I think this is possible. I think that this is possible. I don't think that I have to live off food stamps. I don't think that I have to live off of Social Security. I don't think that I have to work for this particular company. I can do this. I can make this happen. And when you talk about, KFC, it was like, okay, like, do I want to go work for KFC? Not necessarily, but there are thousands of people across the country and maybe even the world who are employed by KFC. So if it's not necessarily your dream job, it's getting you through to your dream job. It's getting you through to that point. And so the creator of KFC, he established that. That's a legacy. That's a legacy. And maybe he passed that on down to his kids. I don't know. But the point is that he helped a lot more people than just himself.
And that's the beauty of when you'd go into uncharted waters. Because truth is, when you do succeed, others benefit too. And that's the beauty of it. And that's what I love. Listen, that's why I love this thing of this game of life. You see, when you act on your dream, you are literally benefiting others that you may not even know that you would ever come into contact with, all because you went out and, do this thing. And that's what I like about it, So I that's one thing. I had a thought which I was going to mention. And oh, yes, many times, where does this willpower comes from, though? Many times people don't understand it. But here's the thing. You have to know where you come from, who you are, and who you want to be. That is very vital, because based on those answers to those questions, okay, yes, you come from the slums. Yes, you come from a bad pedigree. Yes, you're a poor guy who grew up in the hood. All you know is gun. All you know is drugs. Or all you know, in a woman case, all you know is you use boys to get what you want. You sometimes even use your body. I don't know what your scenario is. I'm just speculating or just creating scenarios to prove this point. But one of my favorite movies is that guy who played the Joker, but in this film he was playing a knight, and oh boy, I can't remember the name of that movie. Yes,
Heath Ledger. A Knight's Tale.
Can a boy change his stripes? Of course he can. Yes, it doesn't matter where your pedigree comes from. It doesn't matter where you came from, but it matters where you want to go. And I think that's the most important point there, because at the end of the day, when you put a value on yourself, that is when things tend to change and to go in a direction of where you want to go. Which means if you put a low value on yourself, you're going to only achieve low. Listen, the moment you know you're worth more than the average, listen, you don't ask the question as, well, can I work for KFC? No, you ask, can I own a KFC franchise? That's the difference. And I get excited because, listen, it's not about, this street corner is mine. No, it's why don't you own the whole city doing something legal? You know what I mean? And that's the power of that willpower right there. And the proper mental power of thinking positively and thinking big.
Yeah, and that
if you want it and you're willing to work hard for it,
you gotta want it. You gotta want it. We're kind of coming up to a wrap, so I'm definitely keeping up on time. So I don't want to end the show just yet. I've got one more question before we end, and what I want to just go into a little bit is this show is really about trying to be our better selves. So what's something right now, Elton, that you're thinking about? You're not necessarily where you want to be. Mm-hmm. So what are some things that you're wanting to accomplish?
Good question. One of the things I'm hoping to step to is to be a landlord that owns several housing places to help people, to have a place for them. Another thing is I want to own a place. I want to go into the memory making business. These are just many things I want to do, but I have to be prepared to work hard for that, and it sounds big, but I know it can be done. I know it can.
That's what I like. Well, with that, man, you have any questions for me before I go into these?
No.
Okay, all right. We really want to thank you guys, and with that, stay tuned for the next episode.
Deuces.